Hi, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine. Today we're talking about it's witchcraft. Yeah, all right. Thanks for joining in. I think we can all agree that the further you go back in history, the dumber it gets. It just gets more and more ignorant the further we go back. You know, hating people for their skin color, hating people for their genitalia. You just keep going back and it just can become increasingly more oppressive and more ignorant. You have to be like, you just go back even to the 50s and it's like, nope, you can't be depressed and everything has to look socially correct. And it's like, okay, there are great things that happened too in any given era or time period, but luckily, this is good news. This is good news because luckily we are actually evolving. And I think for many of us, it doesn't happen quite quick enough. It's like, let's go. Can we just get on program with people being free? Can we praise some freedom here? Do we have to all be alike? Can we celebrate diversity? Are we ever going to let the world be diverse, which it's always been? We've never had all the people on earth have the same faith tradition. Can we allow for some diversity and some freedom? And I think we're headed in that direction. And I think it's a really good sign that we are progressing. Granted, it seems to be at a snail's pace, but when you think about it, we do continue to move more towards the embrace of allowing diversity to be expressed. And it's wonderful. Thank goodness. Oh, thank goodness. Finally, I'm not going to get burned at the stake. Whew. What a lucky lifetime I'm in, because I have been murdered before. And to all the Puritans that decided to slaughter my flesh costume awarded to me by the God that they praised, I forgive you. If you knew better, you'd do better, and I forgive you. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm a magician. I don't have to hold resentment against that forever. So that's okay. I'm a mental alchemist. I forgive you. We'll move forward now. First, I want to address this video to those that hold a philosophy or faith tradition that says that witchcraft, the craft, paganism, whatever languaging is utilized on that, is negative, bad, or wrong. That I honor your faith tradition. I think one of the challenges we have in this plane is honoring diversity and philosophy. And if you think about it, 7.9 billion people are never going to all agree. Not on any topic. Not on any topic in the universe. It's never going to happen because it's 7.9 billion individuals that have adopted value systems based on their experiences, which are all individualistic. So that being the case, I just want to say I respect and have reverence for your philosophy. If you feel the topic that I've chosen today is one that is evil, I'm not here to change anyone's faith tradition. If your faith tradition works for you, good. Love it. Glad you found what works for you. What I will say is that when we hold an eye of someone outside of us being evil, that choice is a choice to align with judgment and separation rather than union, forgiveness, love. And so it can be good to consider maybe we can discern something isn't for us, but we don't have to attack it and assume the worst of it and assume the worst of those that practice that. Because I can tell you there's not any faith tradition, even some polar opposite faith tradition, totally different than mine, that I am going to put stink eye on. Be like, let me judge this. So there's on the one hand, there are those that the topic of witchcraft is not a topic of interest. They don't want to know about it. They don't want to hear about it. And you probably haven't listened this far in if that's you. But if you have, I just want to invite you to keep your focus on your faith tradition and what works for you, and bless those in your mind if you feel that they're having something evil going on and you think that that's something that God doesn't want but can't fix and needs your help with, then pray for them. So that's okay, For those that are curious about it but have been fed in their DNA from a few hundred years ago when we were just killing people like me all the time, when we were literally murdering me in another flesh costume and murdering others like me. I want us to consider that continuing to be in a space where we judge witchcraft as evil, it's possible that time has come for us to evolve on this topic. We are in a space where we're ready to evolve on topics like individuality and diversity. So luckily, we do kind of evolve from the ignorance of the past, and we do kind of grow, and we do kind of learn. Any two-legged, I would venture to guess, could say that love feels good. Acceptance feels good. Being received feels good. Being judged, criticized, attacked, separated from, ooh, you're not one of us, does not feel good. So we get to think about, who we're going to be and how we're going to show up in relationship to the all. My constant invitation to myself as a magician is to be an ever magical being focused on love and extending love. So I forgive all the people that murdered me for being a witch in the past. I understand if they knew better, they'd do better. I understand that they were scared and they thought that they should have command over my life given to me by spirit, and that they had a right to extinguish it. And I forgive them. Like, as a magician, I don't have to hold that trauma and continue to walk with it. I do want to invite others to kind of set down judgment from the temple room, no matter what, whether it's philosophy, whether it's the way you walk in the world. I think letting judgment rule in your inner temple is never going to offer joy because it's a separatist act. But you do you, boo-boo. I bless whatever you do. No doubt you're on the path you need to be on out of the 7.9 billion people. And I don't ever want to get rid of diversity. Diversity is how Mother Nature expresses the number of flowers, the types of grass, the types of cloud formations. Diversity is how nature has always expressed it, and we are a part of nature. And so, of course, the two-leggeds express diversely. Of course, they express diversely during a pandemic. Of course, they express diversely when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to politics, when it comes to how to live a life or what is valuable to put your focus on. We all have different value systems, so of course there's diversity there. What I do want to say for those that are curious about witchcraft is that one of the things I love about witchcraft is it can be extremely individualistic. There are those that are in covens, and then there are also solitary practitioners. A solitary practitioner, which is what I am, is someone that practices alone. And their practice is very individualistic. It's very specific to their matrix. So my matrix of witchcraft is a blending of witchcraft and shamanism. And, so I have, my altar is dedicated to power animals. It's dedicated to ancestors. It's dedicated to gods and goddesses. It's dedicated to all the things that cause me to get in alignment with awareness of a divinity, or as above, so below is how some might state that. So the concept of, and this is the beauty of witchcraft, anything I say, I promise you there's a witch out there this day that would be like, that's not what witchcraft is, da 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 da. And that's a fact. That is not what witchcraft is to that person and their multiverse. They have their own truth. They have their own way that they hold this topic. Beautiful. It's one of the things I love about witchcraft is that it can be a deeply individualistic practice. And I love the concept of covens too. I love it that like minds can come together and just be like, yes, we are going to all focus on these aspects of witchcraft and be a community. I think that's beautiful too. I think it's really lovely. But one of the things I really love about it is it is such an individual journey that kind of has to do with as above, so below. I am kind of in the vertical axis, the macrocosm, or the gods, goddesses, that which is above, so below is mirrored in the microcosm, or in the individual person. And so if there's a creative component that made all this, that made me, that made the sea, that made a bumblebee, that made a tree, because I didn't make those things. My little ego didn't make those things. So if there's something that had the creative capacity to make all of this, galaxies upon galaxies upon galaxies, it must have put that creative capacity in me to be a magician, to be a mental alchemist, to be a wizard, to be a mage, to be a witch, to be able to use creative capacity to create what is desired in the life. And when I say mental alchemist, I mean someone that is able to work with their mind and work with their feelings and work with the timeline of their experience to turn heavy, lead-like, non-productive thoughts and feelings that lead one to a negative life experience to the shimmering, valuable, precious, golden jewel that is a positive, optimistic, mental alchemy, magical shift in the way life and experience are held, such that one's path moves more towards enjoyment, fulfillment, and that which is sought in life. My particular, so I see myself as my own multiverse, and in my multiverse, witchcraft really boils down to one law. There's one law that I follow, and that is, and it harm none, do what you will. Now, there are many witches that won't agree that that's a law of witchcraft, and that's because it's an individualistic practice, which is one of the things I love about it. But to me, I've spent many lifetimes as a witch, and I've learned well, also, all the lifetimes I wasn't a witch, but I was another faith tradition, my soul has learned well that what you send out, you get back. As above, so below. What you hold in mind, you will see and you will know in your timeline. So I'm aware that that extending love, extending the honoring of free will, extending the choice to be more in a state of union and love, to never harm, to be aware that you have an influence, you have potency, and you have an influence, and to make sure that that influence is one that is offering, one that is love-filled, one that is light of truth-filled. To me, so easy. It's so easy for Heather Mackey to follow one law. For me to just, with everything in my life, to be like, does it harm anyone? Does it harm me? Is it harmful to me if I stay with this emotionally abusive person? Is it harmful to me if I don't practice self-care? Is it harmful to the people in my life if I'm harmful to me? Like that, having one law to follow, and also I have great ability to follow multiple laws, but being able to categorize everything into that simple law and simple ritual, there's also not a lot for me to judge myself on. Either I was being non-harmful or not, period, end of discussion. And if I was not being harmful, and I have found throughout my life, my intent is never harm. I'm never like, I'm gonna get him. That's just not my matrix. I've had whatever growth and evolution I've had through my lifetimes, that's not my matrix. So it's an easy law for me to follow, and it doesn't lend me to a lot of judgment or self-recrimination when it comes to my spiritual faith tradition, because really I'm just constantly checking in to make sure that I'm being supportive, being a steward of service, a steward of self-care, a steward of caring for others, somebody that is attentive to being medicinal. Medicine person, shamanism is my path, as well as witchcraft. So the question I'm always asking myself from all the philosophies, I kind of practice a little of a lot of different things, is just to always, the root of it is like, is this helpful or harmful? Is this medicinal or toxic or poisonous? So that's always my check-in in my individual witchcraft, in my individual multiverse. I think it's a great time for us to really step out of judging the old religion, because a lot of people were burned at the stake that weren't witches. It was just like, this Christian puritanical woman didn't like how attractive that lady was, and she was getting the eye of her priest husband or whatever. So she's like, she's a witch. She's got oregano in her kitchen. And, or like somebody was out like sunbathing naked, and they're like, oh, she's a witch because witches practice skyclad and they're naked outside. Like a lot of the women that were murdered for witchcraft, it had more to do with misogyny in the time. Many of those women weren't even practicing witchcraft at all. They were just murdered just because it was easy to hate women back then. So But I can say for all those that were and all those that do, it's important to know it's not an evil practice, and there's great beauty and great simplicity in following it. So if you go to rarebirdmedicine.com, click on the classes link, we have an upcoming class to read the tarot and an upcoming class called Be a Witch, in which we'll explore Heather's philosophy and other people's philosophies on this topic. I hope that you will join us and connect with your magical self. Blessed be.